Welcome to Out of the Office Investigation into Personal Health Actualization. This time we're discussing Akkermansia bacterial role in overall personal health. We're focusing today on, well, a tiny but really mighty resident of the human gut, Akkermansia muciniphila.
That's right.
And this beneficial microbe, it only makes up about, 1 to 5% of the total gut microbiome.
Yeah, if that, yeah. But its influences, it's just disproportionately large. It's rapidly changing how we think about wellness from the ground up.
Absolutely.
Exactly, Ramsey. This organism is moving from being just a biological curiosity to a real therapeutic target. So today, we need to figure out the crucial physiological processes it influences. We're going to start at the foundation, exploring its core role in gut barrier integrity, which is just vital.
And from there, we'll expand out. Because its impact, it really doesn't stop at the intestinal lining, does it?
Not at all.
We have to look at its profound influence on our whole metabolism. I mean, everything from weight to glucose management to our lipid profiles.
And finally, we get to the really exciting frontier of the research, this fascinating, newly revealed relationship between this one single microbe and our neurological and mental health, all through the complex pathways of the gut-brain axis.
So our mission here is to pull together the most critical insights from all the sources and give you, the listener, a shortcut to understanding how to optimize its presence in your own body.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's start with the microbe itself, this intestinal gatekeeper. Puck, what exactly is Akkermansia? It's not just another strain, right? It's highly specialized.
It is, Ramsey. It's a gram-negative obligatory anaerobe.
Meaning it can't stand oxygen.
Exactly. And it has a very specific address. The intestinal mucosal layer, that's its home. It was first identified back in 2004 by a team led by Darian, and what made it stand out was its unique diet. It uses pure mucin.
The slippery stuff that makes up the gut lining.
That's it, the glycoprotein. That's its sole source of carbon.
Most people hear that and think, wait, it eats my protective lining. That sounds counterproductive.
It does, but that's the beautiful paradox of how it works.
That's the key.
It is the key to its crucial role. I mean, think of your mucosal layer like a security blanket that constantly needs to be refreshed. High levels of Akkermansia are consistently associated with a healthy, thick layer.
And low levels.
Low levels? Well, that's a signal that the barrier is compromised. And that can rapidly lead to widespread systemic inflammation, the condition people call leaky gut.
Okay, so let's break down that mechanism, the mucin cycle, because this is where the genius is. It's not destruction, it's renovation.
Precisely. It's renovation. Akkermansia degrades the old, spent mucin for its energy, but that act sends a signal, a biochemical signal, to the cells lining the intestine.
The epithelial cells.
Right, telling them time for new construction. So it actively promotes the production of new, high-quality mucin, reinforcing and thickening the entire barrier. It's a perfect recycling system.
And while it's breaking down the mucin, it's also producing other good stuff, right? The short-chain fatty acids, SCFAs, that's a domino effect.
A huge one. The byproducts of its mucin feast are SCFAs like acetate and propionate. What's fascinating here is that these SCFAs, they don't just nourish the colon cells themselves. They are the preferred food for other beneficial gut bacteria. Those bacteria, in turn, produce butyrate, which is arguably the most vital SCFA for the health of your intestinal cells. So Akkermansia is a true keystone species. It supports the whole ecosystem.
So we can definitely say that with its protective foundational role, this microbial construction crew, Akkermansia, can be linked to an overall healthy body. I mean, the evidence is both structural and chemical.
Absolutely. When that gut barrier is strong, it stops harmful pathogens, antigens, and this is critical bacterial endotoxins like LPS,
lipopolysaccharide,
from migrating into the bloodstream. And that migration, that systemic exposure to LPS, is often the very root cause for so many chronic inflammatory diseases. You secure the foundation, the whole house is stable.
It's a foundational stability that provides a protective baseline. I think we can confidently say that maximizing this whole mechanism of reinforcement and anti-inflammation, well, Akkermansia bacteria role in overall personal health aligns our bodies to a healthy environment for both mental and physical success. It really sets the stage for everything else.
It absolutely does.
So let's pivot from that foundational integrity to the systemic consequences.
Yeah.
If it locks down the gut barrier and tamps down inflammation, the next question is, what does that stabilization do for the rest of the body? And this is where the metabolic data it really shines.
The metabolic connection is incredibly strong. Across so many studies, you see lower levels of this bacterium consistently associated with an increased risk of the big three inflammatory conditions: inflammatory bowel disease, obesity, and type 2 diabetes. That inverse correlation is one of the most solid findings in all of microbiome research.
And the practical benefits they've seen in studies, both in humans and animals, are pretty substantial. Reduced total cholesterol, actual fat loss, better blood sugar control, and improved insulin sensitivity. This isn't just theory.
No, and the 2019 Depommier study is really the cornerstone here for humans. They tested pasteurized Akkermansia supplementation in overweight and obese volunteers, and they found significant improvements in several critical markers.
Like what?
Increased insulin sensitivity, a reduction in fasting insulin levels, and lower total cholesterol. And even though the weight loss was modest, they did see a measurable decrease in body fat mass and hip circumference. It directly links the microbe to body composition.
That's the kind of clinical evidence we need to move this from just a theory to real therapeutic potential. This microbe is targeting the absolute core components of metabolic syndrome.
Insulin resistance, dyslipidemia, visceral obesity, all of it.
And specifically with type 2 diabetes, we know that a decreased abundance is strongly correlated with impaired insulin secretion. And it's negatively associated with high hemoglobin A1C levels, especially in those really hard-to-treat cases.
And it gets even more interesting when you look at pharmacology. Some researchers think that metformin, probably the most common anti-diabetic drug in the world, might actually work in part by indirectly boosting the abundance of beneficial bacteria.
Including Akkermansia.
It's a fantastic example of a drug and a microbe working together.
And if we look even deeper, there's a molecular star. This outer membrane protein, Amici 100. So this isn't the whole microbe, it's just a tiny piece of its outer shell, but it's remarkably potent.
Amici 100 is a real breakthrough. We know it independently stimulates GLP-1 secretion, that's glucagon-like peptide 1, which is critical for making you feel full and improving metabolic health. But it also has a direct effect on adipose tissue, on fat tissue. It actively promotes thermogenesis and lipolysis. Basically, it tells your body to ramp up energy use and burn fat. It's a metabolic powerhouse in a protein.
Given this wide-ranging influence, from reducing inflammation to improving insulin action and promoting fat burning, we have to connect this to broader health. Understand Akkermansia bacteria role in overall personal health, and how to make healthy daily choices for diet, behaviors, and medical care is critical to our physical and mental health and recovery from hypertension.
And that link to hypertension might not be immediately obvious to everyone, Ramsey, but it's crucial.
Explain that.
Well, hypertension, high blood pressure, is one of the foundational symptoms of metabolic syndrome. So by positively influencing the underlying drivers, the inflammation, the insulin resistance, the lipid issues, Akkermansia is necessarily supporting your systemic vascular and cardiometabolic health. It's treating the root cause of the metabolic disorder, which includes the vascular damage that leads to high blood pressure.
That makes perfect sense. The gut is stabilizing the entire vascular system. You're listening to The Out of the Office with research by author Paul Bulow. Okay, moving from the physical and metabolic side of things, let's explore the connection well, it almost feels like science fiction. This microbe is affecting our brains. Puck, how can Akkermansia bacteria support mental and physical health?
This is, for me, the most exciting area of investigation, Ramsey. The gut-brain axis. We are seeing hard evidence linking Akkermansia abundance to neurological conditions. It confirms its impact is truly comprehensive, extending right into the central nervous system.
Let's start with the neuroprotective findings. The sources highlight some pretty significant decreases in Akkermansia in mouse models of Alzheimer's disease. What happened when they supplemented those models?
The results were striking. Supplementation actively mitigated their cognitive deficits and significantly reduced the amyloid pathology. Now, it's still early, and we need human data, of course. But it suggests a direct protective pathway where this microbe is modulating the inflammation or the metabolic stress that contributes to neurodegeneration.
And that neuroprotective effect seems to carry over into mood regulation, which, that touches millions of people. I'm thinking about anxiety and depression.
That's where our friend MUC 1100 shows up again. The same protein that helped with metabolism also alleviated stress-induced anxiety and depression-like behavior in mice.
Now, what's the mechanism?
The mechanism is direct communication. MUC 1100 promotes intestinal 5-HT, that's serotonin biosynthesis, and its availability. It does this by signaling through something called the TLR2 pathway, which directly links the health of your gut lining to the availability of these key neurotransmitters.
That bridge between physical integrity and mental output is just profound. But we do have to inject a moment of nuance here because not all neurological associations are so simple, right? It's not always about depletion.
That's right, Ramsey. It's a great point. The gut ecosystem is incredibly complex. For instance, in some studies on Parkinson's disease, researchers have actually observed an increased abundance of Akkermansia in some patients.
Which seems contradictory.
It does. And this is why we have to remember that correlation is not causation. You have confounding factors like medication. Many PD drugs affect gut motility and altered gut transit time, all of which can change the microbial environment. So its role in Parkinson's is still being clarified. It might be a biomarker or a response to the disease rather than a direct cause or cure.
That's a vital distinction. But when we synthesize the whole picture, reducing systemic inflammation, regulating metabolism, and directly influencing the serotonin pathway, it makes us ask a critical, forward-looking question. Can Akkermansia bacteria role in overall personal health, improve our mental health, while supporting physical optimum performance?
Absolutely, because optimization isn't achieved by tackling mental and physical health as two separate problems. They're intrinsically linked by the gut-brain axis. By stabilizing the gut barrier, reducing inflammation, and optimizing key metabolic signals, you are creating the absolute best internal environment for peak cognitive function and emotional resilience right alongside your physical health. You optimize the foundation, you optimize the whole system.
Which brings us to the most practical segment.
Yeah.
Modulation. If this microbe is so critical, how do we get more of it? You can't just eat a bowl of Akkermansia.
Correct. No food naturally contains the bacterium. You have to feed the population you already have. And the primary strategy is a two-pronged dietary approach: prebiotics and polyphenols.
Prebiotics, so the non-digestible fibers the bacteria loves. We're talking about staples like artichokes, bananas, onions, garlic, asparagus.
Oats, apples, and flaxseed. The key is consistent intake. You have to provide that fuel source regularly.
And then the polyphenols. These plant-derived antioxidants are incredibly potent feeders.
They're like the protective shields and the growth stimulants for Akkermansia. The sources point to intense colors. Berries, think pomegranates, cranberries, raspberries, blueberries.
The more colorful, the better.
Exactly. Also things like green tea catechins and tannins, plums, beans, hazelnuts, pecans. The big takeaway is make every meal as colorful and diverse as you possibly can.
You know, the polyphenols are interesting because they don't just feed Akkermansia. They often suppress or compete with less beneficial bacteria, helping Akkermansia win that territorial battle.
Yeah.
It's competitive exclusion in action.
It is. And the modulation strategy goes beyond just the food list. We have to address the overall environment. The modern diet actively works against gut health, primarily through excess added sugar.
Sugary drinks, desserts, processed cereals.
Right. Cutting those out removes the fuel for the less desirable microbes.
And we can't forget chronic stress. Stress hormones like cortisol directly and rapidly impact the integrity of the gut lining, which makes it harder for Akkermansia to do its job. So mitigating that stress with practices like mindfulness, yoga, or journaling is just as crucial as what you eat.
And your external environment matters too. Research shows that just increasing time spent in nature encourages physical activity, which helps with gut transit time, and critically, it exposes your body to a broader variety of environmental microbes. That enhances your overall microbiome diversity. A diverse ecosystem is a robust one.
So synthesizing everything we've covered, diet, actions, environment, what are the key elements for success here? What are key elements for Akkermansia bacteria role in overall personal health?
The key elements are comprehensive, Ramsey. The research strongly suggests that the bacterium thrives when the host is living a balanced, supportive life. The success we've seen in the lab regarding its influence, well, it tells us that Akkermansia bacteria role in overall personal health suggests our body's health is connected to our diet, actions, nutrition, sunlight, fresh air, personal energy, and our clarity routine of alignment of our actions, words, and thoughts. It's a holistic, integrated approach. Microbial health really just reflects our overall systemic stability.
And that holistic perspective is rapidly translating into clinical reality through targeted therapeutic approaches. We're seeing specialized prebiotic supplements emerge now.
Right, often using low FODMAP fibers like from citrus and pomegranate extracts that are really rich in those flavonoid polyphenols we discussed. The goal is to maximize Akkermansia growth without causing the digestive distress that some people get from high-fiber diets. It's especially helpful for listeners dealing with something like IBS.
And then, of course, there's using the bacterium itself as a therapeutic. Targeted probiotic products with Akkermansia are becoming available. What's critical is the successful use of the pasteurized form.
Yes, that heat-treated version has shown enhanced stability and efficacy in human trials for improving metabolism, which led to it being recognized as a novel food by the European Food Safety Authority. That's a huge regulatory step. It underscores its therapeutic validity. You're listening to The Out of the Office with research by author Paul Brullo.
So to recap the monumental task this one little microbe undertakes, Akkermansia is not just another good gut bug. It is truly a cornerstone species. It maintains the absolute integrity of our intestinal barrier. It generates vital SCFAs that fuel the rest of the ecosystem.
It orchestrates immunological responses that put the brakes on chronic inflammation, and it actively influences systemic things like our metabolism and even our mood.
And the research connecting these dots is high frequency and growing every single day. When you look at the keywords tying the studies together, the conclusions are consistent. Its profound association with the intestinal mucosal barrier, with gut inflammation, obesity, type 2 diabetes.
And it's really intriguing ties to complex neurological conditions like Alzheimer's disease and depression.
It's all incredibly compelling.
Yeah.
It suggests a future where we treat systemic disease right through the gut. However, we always have to stress the most exciting findings, especially the neurological mechanisms and the functions of specific proteins, are still heavily derived from animal models.
That's right.
Validation through large-scale, diverse human clinical trials is the absolute necessary next step before we can make definitive claims about its universal efficacy.
Yet the most provocative thought this research leaves us with, I think, involves that specialized outer membrane protein, a MUC100.
The little powerhouse.
The little powerhouse. The discovery that this component alone can act as a versatile therapeutic agent, stimulating GLP-1 for metabolic benefits and affecting mental health pathways, that suggests a radical shift in gut medicine. In the future, Ramsey, we may not be supplementing the entire bacteria,
But just the precise bacterial components.
exactly, offering the potential for highly targeted, ultra-specific interventions for a vast spectrum of challenges, moving seamlessly from metabolic dysfunction to neuropsychiatric conditions. The complexity of the solution is matched only by the simplicity of its source.